and welcome to the August 27th Conservation Commission meeting. At this point in time, I'd like to remind anybody in the audience that if they have electronic devices, to please silence them. And if you are going to address the board, please go up to the podium and address the commission so that the records keeper can get your name. And we're just going to go from there. First up, we have minutes, vote August 6th, 2014. Has anybody read the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, August 6th needs to be transcribed, so
We're
we'll
gonna,
have Susan do that for us.
you work way too hard. You need to be compensated more than what you are. So,
Hold on.
the next is August 20th, 2014.
Mr. Chairman, I've read the minutes, there are a couple minor clarifications on pages 4, 5, and 8. I submit out to Susan.
And my name seemed to get reversed.
Robert Russell. That's good. Just for a change.
Yeah. I kept thinking, who is Mr. Russell?
Are there any other name corrections or alter egos that we gotta address?
Who's this new board member? That's the question.
Anyone second, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That we need a motion, and that was Mike's,
that was mine.
and I need a second.
Second.
Mary is the second. Is there any discussion from the audience about any other further comment from the board?
There you go.
Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved. Next is a request for a continuance under a notice of intent. The first is the Town of Falmouth Beach Committee, 295 Quaker Road, North Falmouth.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Beach Superintendent is requesting continuance until October 1st.
So, at the request of the applicant, that we continue the hearing to October 1st.
Second?
First.
We have Mary as a motion, Mike second. And any other discussion from the board? Is there any discussion in the audience on this project? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. And that was to October 1st. Thank you. Now, next is 0 Ferry Road, Wacoit, Mass.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicants have requested a continuance until September 24th.
On request of the applicant, move to continue to September 24th.
Second?
Just one question, how many continuances does this make it?
This is,
Russ, that'll be 3, I believe, 3 or 4, third.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's actually 4.
The 4th, and I did, when I spoke to Mr. McGrath yesterday regarding this, I did tell him that the board would probably not be inclined to grant another one. The application was submitted to you March 27th.
So there's no regulatory
Not
backing of
regulatory, no.
continuances?
no, but my take is on it that we did not, some of the information still is trickling in, and so as to just satisfy what we had requested
I see.
is what that, it's the collection of that
Yeah,
materials.
that, and they will also be requesting a variance. We need to advertise it as well, and they're still getting that information together.
Okay.
But I did let them know
I'm
that.
inclined to agree with you, Mario, this is it.
I hope so.
We have a motion and a second.
Russell, Mr. Russell.
What's the date again?
September 24th.
He's the one that said it.
Yeah, I moved it,
Oh.
so Mary seconded it.
All right. Any other discussion on the board? Is there any discussion from the audience on this project? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 18 Surrey Lane, East Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until September 10th.
At the request of the applicant, I move that we continue the hearing to September 10th.
Second.
We have John's the second, Larry's motion. Any other discussion on the board? Is there any discussion in the audience on this project? Seeing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 178 Edgewater Drive East, East Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant's representative is requesting continuance until September 10th.
Entertain a
They're
motion.
still trying to secure permission to access the neighbor's property for the construction.
At the request of the applicant, I move to continue to September 10th.
Second.
Mario second. Mr. Robbins, motion.
Thank you for getting it right.
Any other discussion on the board? Is there any discussion in the audience on this project?
Probably not.
Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. There are no RDAs tonight, so the next part, I get to do this. This is a request for hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. First, we have Loring and Nancy Flint, 162 Saconaset Road, Falmouth, Mass., for permission to demolish and reconstruct the existing single-family dwelling with an attached garage, porches, patio, and pool house to modify the pool patio, reduce the tennis court area, remove a brick wall, maintain the existing irrigation system, construct and maintain the proposed wall, steps, fencing, pool equipment, install a new Title V sewage disposal system, restoration, planting, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
I'll save any of my comments until after Raul's presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Holmes & McGrath. We're the engineers and land surveyors for the applicant. Mr. and Mrs. Flint at 162 Saconaset Road in Falmouth. Proposed project, it's a reconstruction of an existing house, an existing pool house with new septic system and associated improvements. Resources on or within 100 feet of the proposed project and the lot. It's a salt marsh, coastal bank, and land subject to coastal flooding. The proposed project is to raise the existing residence, build a new single-family residence, upgrade the septic system to a conforming Title V, raise the existing pool house, which is the closest structure to the resources, reconstruct a new pool house on a larger footprint than the existing one, reconstruct the existing patio between the existing pool and the pool house. The existing pool is not to be worked on. We're reducing the footprint of the impervious surface of the existing tennis court by 2 feet on the two ends and 1.5 feet on the two sides. The Zone A, buffer zone A in this particular parcel has already been disturbed with existing accessory structures, such as the tennis courts, the pool, retaining walls, the pool house, and the existing cesspool that services the pool house that exists today. The proposed modifications do not increase the impervious surfaces in Zone A. We're actually reducing the impervious surfaces by almost 200 square feet. We are increasing impervious surfaces on Zone B by less than 200 square feet. The overall net, it's a decrease of about 7 square feet in impervious surfaces. A portion behind the proposed pool house is being cleared to allow the 10-foot construction access around a new structure construction. And that planting is being relocated as not mitigation, but rather restoration plantings along the outside lawn area of the pool. That's approximately 660 square feet that's being removed from the back of the proposed new house and relocated along the south end of the existing pool and the west end of the pool. The proposed limit of work is defined by the installation of hay bale, stake hay bales, all along most of the existing edge of clearing and the edge of the proposed new edge of clearing. I want to mention that this lot has a land court plan in the record filed from 1978, and it shows both the existing tennis court, the existing house, the existing pool house, the existing pool from 1978 preceding all the Falmouth wetland regulations. One of the things that has happened recently is that there was some problems with the mechanical piping around the pool, and all the pool patio around the pool was removed and temporarily replaced with lawn. So in that plan from 1978, you would see that the entire area that's called lawn in our new plan was actually brick patio. That area is not being counted towards existing impervious surfaces nor proposed impervious surfaces. We're not proposing to regain that area, but it's something that I want to mention. There was approximately 900 square feet of impervious surfaces. That's no longer the case. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, Jen?
Well, have you filed the zoning?
Yes.
You have, okay, excellent. Check one. I do have some concerns with the way the mitigation calculations were done. I briefly spoke to you about that. I'm gonna need a lot more information on how he calculated that. When you remove the tennis court, what is that area gonna be?
It's going to be planted. Mitigation planting, not mitigation planting. In this particular case, we don't need mitigation planting, but the strips that's being removed from around the tennis court is going to be planted.
With
what?
Grass.
Not grass, some shrubs. I don't know if it's any of the shrubs that's in the list. We can provide some clarification of what to be planted.
So let me get this straight. You've got a fence
Right.
for the tennis court. You've got the tennis court. You're gonna remove this much along the edge and put a plant there in between the fence and the tennis court surface.
The portion of impervious that's being removed is going to be replaced with plantings.
That
Yes.
is what I'm having a lot of trouble with. Because I just don't think realistically it will work. Because you've got the fence there, you're gonna remove that portion, you're only removing a 1.5 feet along that, and I know why you're trying to do it. You're trying to get your numbers to work, and I'm just not seeing the benefit there between increasing the pool house structure, which I'll get to in a minute, and removing 1.5 feet off the edge of your tennis court and telling me you're gonna plant it and allow those plants to grow into their full and mature form. It's just, the staff is having a real difficulty with that. Also, the pool house itself, you're removing a lot of natural vegetation in Zone A, and the regulations specifically say that any redevelopment in Zone A must occur in an area that lacks naturally vegetated buffer, and any increase in that impervious surface or pervious area that will not support naturally vegetated buffer in Zone A must leave room for the required buffer plan. So it's pretty clear that any redevelopment has to occur in an area that lacks natural vegetation, and the expansion of the pool house, it does not meet that particular right. And I know that you're saying you're going to put the plantings around the edge of the existing pool, But I also have concerns with that because I do like people to be able to access their structures. I know you can say you can access from inside the pool, but again, I don't see them being maintained or being able to survive like that. So I do have concerns with that as well. And that was done. And you're removing how many trees for the expansion, Raul?
1 tree.
1 tree.
And there's
And-
one proposed tree located on the plans.
And have you gone out and looked at where that proposed tree is on site?
Not on site.
I suggest you do. That is gonna have to be moved, because that is basically in an area that completely, there's trees there, it's completely vegetated, and you're gonna remove that vegetation to plant a tree that you're removing. So I have concerns with that as well. And also, there is the reg that says, and although the board can discuss this one, that any expansion of accessory structures, which this would be considered an accessory structure, cannot move any closer to the resource area than the primary structure, which is the house. So the board has to decide what you want to do with the expansion of that pool house. I don't think it needs the one where, the reg where you can remove natural vegetation to put it there, so it may be a moot point, but just keep that in mind. Other than that, those are my only comments and concerns. And Raul, if you could get Jeff to get me some like color-coded thing on how he did the minute, just kind of detail it a little further for me. Most of it is the tennis court, which, as I said, I'm having an issue with. And one other question, when was the temporary piping of the pool replaced, or the temporary lawn when was the lawn put in around the pool?
In June 2013.
June 2013? Okay. And what did they do at that point in time?
It says an emergency repair to the pipes around the pool required the removal of a portion of the brick patio. The brick was removed and then replaced with the sod that's now there.
Okay, thank you.
Mario?
Yeah, I went out and met with Mrs. Flint, and we pretty much walked the whole project area. Much of the house, the interior has really been devastated by a burst water pipe. I mean, it looks like a tsunami came through there, so I can kind of see where they'd want to take that section.
Oh, I have no problem with
Yeah.
the house portion of it. It's
Right.
the proposed pool house that staff is having concern with. I don't think it meets your regulations.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't, so.
Was my understanding that there were going to be bedrooms in the new pool house?
2.
There's 2 bedrooms counted.
2 in the new pool
Right.
house?
Currently, the existing pool house has a septic system.
Mhm.
The new pool house is counted as 2 bedrooms, but there's an ejector pump that's going to send the sewage to the proposed new septic system out front.
So the Board of Health is okay with the 2 bedrooms in the new pool house?
We've had pool bedrooms counted in pool houses in other projects, and I haven't seen that
Those
health
are,
department.
that's what's existing, and it has since before 1978.
Just for the record?
I'm Bob Ahmed, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. 5 and 2, okay. Yeah. I don't know what to say about the pool house. It is a septic upgrade. Could you explain once again the activity around the tennis court, what the reason for that is?
The reason is to balance the impervious surface. What we're doing is reducing the width on both ends by 1.5 feet, reducing the length on both ends by 2 feet.
Yeah.
And that strip that's being removed of impervious is going to be planted.
Not to correct you, but on your plan, it says 1.5 on the sides and 2 foot on the ends.
Right, 1.5 on the sides and 2 foot on the
2
two
feet on
ends.
ends.
Okay. Just put but
I
I think you
maybe I
just,
twisted it.
okay.
Inside the fence.
Right, everything is inside this fence.
So you're gonna put the plants
The
inside
fence-
the fence?
The fence is installed in the gravel area. Around the entire tennis court, there's a strip of gravel, which services as drainage mitigation. The pool is probably 2 or 1.5 foot inside the fence. So it's gonna be even further inside the fence.
But then between the fence and the new tennis court, you're gonna plant that?
Yes,
So they're gonna have bushes inside their tennis court?
inside the fencing, not the tennis court.
Oh, and when these bushes grow?
Yes.
Mm-hmm, okay. I'm not buying it, Raul.
Also, Mr. Ahmed, do you want to comment on that?
Now, let me try to help out, try to respond to the concerns. We obviously will need a continuance because we'll need to provide more information about that planting that's proposed in the exact species. But what Raul is explaining is that the area that's proposed to remove pavement, going to actually remove pavement, obviously impervious surface. That's some distance away from the fence, not a lot, probably about 1.5 feet, which is presently gravel. So there'll be a strip 1.5 feet wide along the sides and 2 feet wide on the end, not right up against the fence, but with some room from the fence. And the purpose of this area is to simply to remove existing impervious area and make it pervious, which relates to the conservation requirements and it relates to zoning requirements. And to put bushes there, low bushes, that would be low. This isn't mitigation planting that we think, we're removing tennis court and putting pervious area in there, and we don't think we have to in that area to comply with the regulations put in bushes that are allowed to grow 5 feet high, but some species of low-growing plant, not grass, and we'll come with more information about that. But the fact is we are removing plainly impervious surface and substituting for it a pervious surface, which we think relates to the, goes directly to the issue of whether we're going to increase impervious coverage or decrease it. And we think that we're decreasing impervious coverage. And I don't see how you can say we're not. I mean, I think that's exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it. We're trying to make this structure, tennis court, this structure, smaller in size.
So you can make the pool house bigger in size in Zone A and remove naturally vegetated
Well,
plants there?
right now I'm talking about what we're
Oh, I
doing
know
with the
why you're
tennis
doing
court.
it, Bob. I mean, it's fairly clear why you're doing it. I just think it's not going to benefit at all when you have plants that are inside a tennis court area. The whole area is fenced off. It's used for a recreational tennis court.
Well, the nature of-
And now you're going to have plants growing in there. It's not going to...
Well, I think we have a planting bed that we're creating out of impervious area, pavement being moved. That instead is going to have soil and plants in it, with room for the plants to actually grow over and on top of the gravel area.
And how
I
about on
think
top of the tennis court? Or through
a
the
little bit,
fence?
or they'll be trimmed, and I don't think we're prevented from doing so. The issue is not, we're not trying to satisfy your requirements for mitigation plantings. We're trying to create pervious surfaces.
You're trying to balance the fact that you're proposing an increase in the pool house by decreasing the structure of the tennis court. That's what you're doing.
That
That's
is-
why you're doing it.
That is absolutely
Yeah, yeah.
true. But the
Okay.
issue is, I think there's different issues as to the changes to the area.
The changes to the area of the pool house are even, that's even beyond that. You're just trying to balance your numbers out. I know why you're doing it.
Well, and I think we've done it. We've taken impervious surface away. We're putting impervious surface. We are going to put plants there that will grow, and I think what we need to do is get you more information about the plants that are proposed. That's the plan to do that. With regard to the area to be cleared to accommodate what I believe is about a 4-foot expansion of the pool house. First of all, your bylaws clearly say that redevelopment can include the addition of an accessory structure, it can include an expansion of a structure. And I'd question, to some extent, the characterization of the area, because where we're expanding to is the area that has an existing cesspool in it and surrounded by invasives. And yes, I'm sure there are a lot of plantings, but that area clearly has been disturbed with the septic system in it. And that septic system, the cesspool, about 15 feet from the top of the coastal bank and well within Zone A of the salt marsh, is to be abandoned and relocated to a Title V system completely outside of jurisdiction. I mean, I think there's a significant benefit with respect to that, and it involves removing the existing development that exists in the area we're talking about.
Okay.
That is not an undisturbed natural area, is what we would say about that.
Naturally vegetated buffer, are there trees in there, Bob?
There are trees there. There are.
It's a naturally vegetated buffer.
Well, it's
Bob.
also an area with
a lot
a
of our buffers are full of invasives. They're still considered naturally vegetated buffer.
Yeah.
And are you saying that if
It's
the
an area
pool
with a cesspool
house
in it.
were able to be rebuilt in its exact footprint, that they wouldn't be pumping, that they would leave the cesspool there?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm not saying I haven't really
They're still
considered that.
proposing the 7-bedroom septic system. So I'm asking if the pool house were to be able to be rebuilt in its exact footprint, you're saying that your clients would just keep the cesspool right
I
there?
didn't say that. I'm saying that
Okay.
there's a benefit to this project to redevelop this
understand that.
pool house.
There are benefits,
Yeah.
but one of them, the regulation says you cannot remove naturally vegetated buffer in Zone A. You're maximizing, I mean, a lot of these structures are built fairly close to the salt marsh, Bob, and I understand what you're trying to do. I just don't think certain portions of your project meet the regs. That's all. I have no problem with the raise and rebuild of the proposed house. But I do have serious concerns about planting right up to that pool fence. The removal of the tennis court is just, you're just trying to get your numbers to work there. I have no problem with the existing patio to be reinstalled, and I wouldn't actually even have any problems with the proposed pool house to be reconstructed in its existing footprint. But I do have some concerns with the expansion. If you're looking for the reg I'm reading, it's 1018 7E2.
If, I'd like to move this along and pull some of the other board members at this point in time, and I'm sure we can readdress some things, but I'd like to continue with the board, please. Mary?
My questions and comments have been, I think, addressed enough, so thank you.
Russ?
I think most of mine have been. I just throw this out there. Any wiggle room on the size of the pool house?
Well, it's obviously something to discuss with the client.
Yeah. I'm just curious.
I mean, you can see,
Throw
I
that
mean, we
out
have
there.
these full architecture plans, a lot of work has gone into this, and,
Can we see the architecturals, Bob, because I don't think we got them?
yeah, sure, we can provide
Okay.
that.
Just because you just mentioned them. Now they're part of the record.
You're all set?
What's that? Yep.
Mike?
I understand the existing fence around the tennis court is to be reconstructed.
I don't think so.
No.
Okay. That isn't, because there is, where I'm coming from is there is a distinct footpath, if you will, around between the fence and the vegetation today.
Yes, I'll clarify that. The existing steps to get to the pool, to the tennis court It's timber landscaping. Those are going to be removed. There's going to be a new set of steps going from the house to the tennis courts. So there'll be some modification to the existing fence to open a gate to the tennis court from that side.
Okay.
What was that last thing, Raul, about the gate? Because I thought that area,
Currently, right now, there's a fence all around.
yeah, oh yeah,
And a gate here.
yep,
These steps are going to be removed,
Yep.
and these steps will be installed. So this fence, this
oh,
gate.
you're gonna
will be
move the
removed
gate, oh, okay,
here.
all right.
So there'll be some modification to the existing fence, but it's not a reconstruction of the fence.
The proposed pool house has a finished floor of elevation 31.7,
Yes,
and ground surface is at 28?
yes.
How does this work?
The existing pool house on the backside, it's kind of like a retaining, so it's retaining the floor slab of the pool house. This proposed pool house will be the same.
Is it a crosswalk?
Yeah.
Oh, it is a
Um,
problem.
it's- I'd like to address that later.
I'm
Yeah,
just saying,
now I'm
I don't
confused.
understand the geometry, so if I can be enlightened, that'd be a good thing. No other questions?
John?
I think all of my questions and concerns have been answered.
I think we've addressed the pool house, the septic system, and the description of the tennis court with the plantings are going to be what's brought up. The pool house now is a block foundation, and that's where that acts as the retaining wall holding some of the grade. It's a block foundation that has openings and there's pool equipment and all this other happiness underneath it.
What is the elevation of the lawn around the existing pool? Because I thought that,
That's going to be somewhere right around 30.
Yeah, it's just about a foot above the, or less. It's, I think, a step, maybe 2 steps from the existing patio into the existing pool house.
I believe that's what it is.
That's the
Yeah,
20.
there are
It's around
steps.
26 foot
29 or
contour.
30.
That light contour line in back of the pool house, Mike, that looks like it's the 26-foot contour.
There's
It
an
is.
existing contour,
Yeah.
28.
Yep, right there.
Yeah, but if you look at the contour line behind the proposed pool house row, that's 26.
This is 26, correct?
Yep.
Right where you have that 10-foot, so
Yep.
26, so you're looking at
Can come in this
a
way, too.
6-foot
And that's why
between
sticks
that
up.
grade and your first floor elevation.
Right,
When-
up close, the grade keeps going up,
Yeah,
so this is about a 27 and a half. So it goes from that 27
Yeah,
to
kinda
27
like
and a half to 31, 32.
Okay, is that
one
kind of
more?
clear?
One more?
Please.
The trees, the existing trees behind pool house overhang the pool house as it exists, and we want to move it closer to the trees. Are we going to, assuming this was approved, and I'm not sure that's a given, but are you going to so decimate those trees they won't survive? I mean, as I stood there, those trees are almost over the front of the existing pool house.
Some of the limbs on the other trees will have to be trimmed for the construction of this pool house. The only one tree that's completely being removed is the one on the northeast corner of the proposed pool house. That one will have to be removed for the construction of this pool house. And it's the one that's being relocated, but the location of it is going to be,
it's in with all
Looked
the
at
other trees. Raul, go
Okay.
out there and stand where you, and just look up.
When the existing, like I mentioned, it's existing as block. Is it going to be a poured foundation on the proposed footprint? Or is it going to be blocks?
I have the plans that would answer that question, but I don't know, I don't recall the answer.
Okay, because you're going to have an overdig on that. And it's going to be, it's going to be tight in there for any of the activities. It's a one-story structure. It's not going to be over X amount of feet tall. It's not going to be a tall structure because you just couldn't fit it.
That's correct.
Um,
One possibility would be, and it may relate to what Mr. Robbins said about trying to figure out what would work for the the Flints. I mean, the existing pool house, although it has 2 bedrooms and a kitchen, it's pretty narrow. The one possibility, if there's flexibility on the required width of the 10 feet from the structure to the limit of work, that I believe that the building could be constructed with considerably a smaller limit of work.
How about moving it over the patio, like shifting it towards the pool?
Well, we are shifting it somewhat toward, already it's shifting 1 foot. I think it's 1 foot
It looks like that,
towards the
yeah.
pool itself. And I do want to comment just a bit about this. I mean, that was patio all around the pool until June of 2013, as Raul said. The bricks had to be removed in order to make the repairs. They knew that they were in the process of redevelopment of the property and wanted to rebuild the pool house. They put back the lawn as a temporary, temporary surface. We decided not to argue that that was temporary, that it has always been a brick patio. We ought to be given credit for that 900 or so square feet of patio that's been removed. I think that that would be very reasonable given, again, the history. We know that this brick patio was there since before 1978. And we haven't asked for any credit for that. And the Flints have decided they would just be willing to leave it as grass and not ask to put back the brick. I think that should be taken into consideration, and we decided it made more sense to remove pavement that exists today, a portion of the tennis court, and create pervious surface over in that area. So,
Tom, could you just say they need an overdig?
Well, if they're doing a poured wall, they will.
Yeah.
And
10-foot limit of work. You
Yeah.
know how I feel about those?
Yeah, and I can appreciate that, because you would, because of all the other, that is on the east side of that, I believe, that is the only access to it. It's a very tight spot. A lot of activity in there, some very positive things. The cesspool's out, that's a very big positive. And I hesitate at saying my next thing, but I'm stepped in it already. I think there could be creative ways as to, instead of having, with all the technologies and floor systems that we have nowadays, and the intrusion of the pool house, I'm designing something and I really hate it when I do that. But I think there could be a creative way to massage that line so as to not have a solid wall underneath there. And your pool equipment, because you're the height that you're at, and where it is now, you could accommodate pool equipment accessibly, being creative underneath the structure. It may not be the most convenient thing, but I think this is what's tripping us up, is the pool house and that distance. And without saying a whole lot more and really choking on my shoelaces.
well, I think that clearly we'll need to look further at that, at what you just identified, because of course the pool equipment area comes out further on the plan.
Right.
And there was some discussion about putting it under the building. Maybe it's, and I don't know this, you'd have more of an idea, it's not for you to design this, but we should look at whether it's possible to build this pool house as large as we're proposing to do it, perhaps without the poured concrete foundation, and maybe that would do it. Now, I don't know if we can build this pool house even with those techniques and features without some intrusion into this area, which now has vegetated, but clearly wasn't, and still has the cesspool, which is going to be removed. But I think that's an area where there could be compromise, because, I mean, obviously, we've got to, this is the area where the cesspool is. I mean,
Yeah, how are you going to access that, to pump and fill it?
You could do, well,
can you repeat your question and your answer? Yeah. What was your question again, Jim?
How are you going to access it with all the trees there and everything without removing the pump and fill? I mean, again,
Access
the cesspool is a
the
good
cesspool,
thing.
you see, access
Yeah.
the cesspool. Well, that's exactly the point, isn't it? That we've got an existing cesspool
Yeah, but
in
you
this area.
don't show the disturbance around it that's going to be needed to access it.
To access it, you mean for removal, or you mean we're going to
To
abandon
pump
it in place, I
You're
presume?
just going to abandon it in place?
I would assume that,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, if we had to remove it,
I
it would
wouldn't
sort of,
know.
then
Just say
then
abandon.
we'd really be showing that we had to
Yeah.
disturb that area.
It says pump and fill sand, so.
I mean, you know where my concerns lie, and it's the pool.
Well,
I'd like you to take a look at that.
I hope, I mean, I think it should be obvious that we've taken this property, which, needs to be upgraded, that, for better or for worse, there are a lot of structures on this. This is a large lot, but it's got a tennis court and a swimming pool, and it had 2 houses on it. So there's a lot on it, but that's what we've got, trying to make it, work, improve it. A lot of work has gone into this. Sounds like we need to do a bit more, and hopefully, while we're doing this, some compromises are possible. I don't know.
The regs are the regs.
Well, but the regs don't talk about a place where there's an existing cesspool.
You're reaching, Bob, and,
Well,
but that's fine.
I'm gonna, Mario.
Just to belabor a minor point, on the planting list, withrod and arrowwood taxonomically in one species now. So I would see that maybe you could boost up the species diversity in your planting plan. Do you see what I mean? In other words, there's no difference between withrod and arrowwood.
Huh?
A and B on the shrub list.
Oh, no, I know what it is, but I'm thinking about the plants and what they look like in my head, and they look fairly different. But they may be the same thing. I mean,
They've been lumped into one species.
I mean,
I'll talk to you about that afterwards. How's that even possible? I'm going to talk to you about that afterwards.
it's just the range being
You
proposed.
caught me.
It's just the range of plans being proposed, but
No, well, that's minor.
We know that the applicant is gonna be requesting a continuance.
Yeah,
We're
Raul,
asking-
Bob, do you want is the 10th enough time, the 17th, the 24th? You don't want to be here on the 24th. We have the Little Pond Sewer Service area. You don't want to be here on that
2
night.
weeks.
Which one?
The 10th,
The 10th? Okay. And you can get everything to us by next week, Raul?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
we're talking about architectural changes. I think
17th?
I think it should be the 17th.
That's
Is that
fine.
okay? I think we just may need it.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Okay, the applicant has requested a continuance, and I have a motion to that.
On the request of the applicant, we can continue this till September 17th.
Second.
Okay, so Mary was the second, Russell was the motion. At this point in time, I'd like to open up to the audience. Is there any comment on this project in the audience? Okay, one little thing from me. I stepped in it already and my shoe's stuck in it. If the client was to keep the same size structure, I think the way to make it palatable is to go towards the pool, and maybe a slight reduction in the width, just to make it a little more palatable on what that 10-foot would be. You know, I know that you went a foot closer, and this is the last I'll talk about what I'm thinking of. You know, you kind of, there is going to be a compromise. If you want to keep this structure at the size that it is, something else has to change.
You know, I just want to comment on what you're doing and say that it's really helpful. You know, we have to go back and talk to clients, we have to go back and talk to architects, and we have to discuss what we've heard from the board and what we think may work. So you seem reluctant to say this is what, the types of things you might consider doing, and that's the way I take it. You're not saying what the commission's going to vote, but I think it's really helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from the board, or questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you,
See you on the
gentlemen.
17th.
Well, did you accept our challenge?
We're gonna make it to
If nothing else, we're expecting a
Silly
contribution.
Susan
Yeah.
dumped water on her hat, and you won't.
last night and tonight.
I'd have to do 3 times.
If nothing else, we're expecting a contribution, Raoul.
Okay, now that we have that, we're moving on to the agenda.
Oh, yeah.
The next is the Town of Falmouth Beach Committee, 295 Quick Road, that is continued to October 1st. Next, after that, is the Town of Falmouth Engineering Department, Oyster Pond Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to repair approximately 185 linear feet of existing rubble mound revetment that includes dismantling rocks, installing of a geotextile fabric base with 1.5-foot thick bedding stones and a single layer of armor stone at a 2-to-1 slope, 590 cubic yards of beach nourishment along the face of the revetment, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. We made it through without screwing.
Excellent.
Good evening.
Good evening. This is my simplest time right now. Peter McConaughey, Town Engineer. I'd like to defer the presentation to our consultant, Applied Coastal Engineering, and I'll be here to answer any questions for the history of the project. Or we go from there.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Trey Ruthven from Applied Coastal Research and Engineering in Mashpee. We're here on behalf of Peter to talk about the revetment repair at 0 Oyster Pond Road. If anybody hasn't visited the site is approximately 530 feet south from the Trunk River Bridge, heading towards Woods Hole along the bike path. Just to the north of the structure, the existing revetment there has already been repaired and rehabbed. We're now progressing south on the current proposal. The structure is currently unraveling. The stones are coming apart. Geotextile that had been in place is visible on the surface. There is basically no structural integrity to the structure as it exists. The current plan is to take the existing structure, stockpile whatever stone is available and usable, and reuse in the structure. The structure will extend out approximately 30 feet from the center line of the bike path, and overall it'll be about 21 feet in width. The bike path is roughly at elevation +9. The top of the structure will also be at +9. It'll have a crest width just large enough for a few armor stones, and then progress down on a 2-to-1 slope down to the top of the toe will be at +1.2 feet in GVD, and the bottom of the toe will be at -2.5 feet in GVD. The entire structure is above mean high water. And then on top of the structure, to help prevent future storm damage, we're proposing a beach nourishment. The beach nourishment will be a mix of cobble, sand, and gravel, all natural kind of glacial outwash material, no angular stones, all rounded. The nourishment is roughly 2.9 cubic yards per linear foot as you march along, but overall over the length of the structure will be 590 cubic yards of nourishment. Nourishment will kind of naturally disperse both north and south due to wave action, depending on what direction the storms are coming from during those storm events, because it also sits above the mean high water line over the face of the structure. The crest of the nourishment will match the crest of the structure, but be placed seaward of it. On the backside, we'll just, if there's any difference between the crest of the structure and the bike path, it'll just actually be filled with beach compatible material. And just to kind of cover at the tail end, there'll be a small section of the existing revetment that'll be dismantled just to ensure tie-in between the geotextile and bedding material. So the armor stones will be pulled out, and if there needs to be any modifications to the base layer of the geotextile and the existing structure that we're not manipulating, That'll just be taken care of in that, 5 or 10 foot range. And then the new structure, or the repaired structure, will then continue southward. The structure will then be kind of tailored back in just to prevent end effects further to the south. I'm happy to entertain questions.
Jen? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Only, no questions, only a couple of comments, and I've already spoken to Peter and Applied Coastal about this, that I will need you to at least contact Natural Heritage, see if they want
Yes,
to look
absolutely.
at the project. This isn't a mapped area for plovers, but they were there this summer, so I'm going to need them to weigh in on this.
Not a problem.
And just to let you know, Peter can give you probably a more comprehensive history of that area, but how many times have you repaired that area? Have you been involved in the repairs?
We actually repaired the area in 2008. It got washed out in Irene. We repaired it in 2010. It got washed out in the second storm, and then it got washed out in Sandy for the third time in 2012. And I remember we kept on coming back to the Conservation Commission requesting to rebuild the slope. And at the time what we were doing was we kept putting sand nourishment back up and sand nourishment back up. And the storms were coming in and they were taking out not only were they taking out what we had in there for material, it was actually undermining underneath the bike path. The bike path is a great recreation facility for us, and it brings the tourism to town. But another thing that really concerns us is the sewer main that's below the bike path. So, and in that area, the sewer main is 5 feet below the pavement. And in 2008, 2010, we've seen it down about 3.5 feet, so it was getting close in that area.
How many times has the sewer main been breached? Since I've been here, it's like 2 or 3. Further.
Yeah, it was on the opposite side of the bridge. We had 2 breaks. One was on New Year's week in 2009, and the other one was midsummer in 2011.
I mean, it is a pretty vulnerable area. There are some boulders out there. The staff is never for revetments or anything like this, but we've tried everything to shore up that area. So I have no questions.
That's part of the...
Oh, I do have one question. Are you going to match it into the existing wall that's there?
We are.
And then so you're going to cover the new wall with sand, but not the wall just to the east?
Roughly...
Because I was standing right at the edge of the existing wall that's there, and where are you going to put it?
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So you're going to have that wall and it's all there.
We had not...
A new wall, and then you're going to
We have
all
not
sand.
proposed extending our limits of the project
Okay.
up northward towards the Trunk River jetties and putting
Sand
nourishment
just moved that way.
The idea is with the nourishment, I mean, the area, I mean, the bike path is at +10, which is the highest elevation there
Yeah.
before we go to the pond. And, during any kind of large coastal storm with wave setup, wave run up,
Yeah.
we're going to have overtopping, at which point it's going to start pulling the beach and pulling it over the top. It's just the natural progression of the barrier beach. So the idea with putting the nourishment in there, at least along the section we're repairing right now, is to provide material to actually start, reef shaping the profile there, which means the profile existing from, the +10 all the way down out through the beach. We're not hoping the sand all stays in place, but actually redistributes over the entire profile to start breaking wave energy earlier before it actually reaches the structure. The structure is really kind of a last line of defense to pick the sewer line and the bike path. But hopefully, as we can put sand out there, we can hopefully start dissipating some of that wave energy before that occurs.
Okay.
As opposed to just going with coming in with just a structure and saying, let's just build a revetment and be done with it.
That concerns me. It's a sewer main. Okay.
Just a couple other comments. We actually went out this afternoon and put some stakes out there to stake the project. And when we went out there, you find that the bike path is so highly used that people from the bike path, they like to visit the beach. And what they do is they walk right over this area. And walking over this area, after a while, you get that wear and tear up the edge of the bike path. Whereas further down, you don't really get that with the revetment. With the revetment further on down, and with the Sandy storm, we went back in there and repaired the top of the shoulder from the bike path up to the shoulder, and they were able to snug some of those revetment rocks. They weren't able to nourish it, but they were able to snug them together But that's another area that has some, that we're starting to get the voids in between the stones, so I'm watching that area too.
Okay.
We've been lucky last year with the storms. I don't know if we're going to be so lucky this year, but.
Knock on fake wood.
John?
So I understand you're not going to add any nourishment. Are you going to move any of the rocks to the northeast of the project location?
Just to the northeast, there's the existing revetment that has been rehabbed.
Yeah.
The only rocks that we would move is at the very end of the southern end terminus of that.
Just where it connects?
Just where
Okay.
it connects. We'd probably take, if you're going east-west as opposed to, north-south, we'd probably take one layer of the armor stone out and just inspect the bedding layer and overlap our geotextile. That way we'll kind of ensure the integrity of the structure overall, instead of actually having a seam in place where we could actually have structural failure during a storm.
Okay. And how do you do this work? What kind of equipment do you use for that?
On site, there would be a trackhoe or a track with a crane, and then there would also be a delivery, so it would either be a front-end loader or likely a front-end loader bringing material down the bike path from the gravel lot.
Okay.
Because we're going to need to, the armor stones are obviously heavy and they need to be transported, so
Right.
it'd either be using an on-site kind of, either on-site dump truck or an on-site loader. A lot of times the contractor will go through and actually pick armor stones before bringing them to site, knowing how they'll all fit together. It's kind of almost like a puzzle, because you want interlocking to ensure the integrity. So they'll bring stones on site in a sequence, and then they'll probably lay them out and then also bring them down in sequence to establish that, interlocking.
Cool.
But we can't just, all the material wouldn't come to
Wouldn't come all
on
at
site at
once,
one time,
right.
because it wouldn't be slow and it would
Right.
be disruptive.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mike?
Are there any plans to extend that treatment to the south or west, the way it is?
At the moment, there's no plans to extend the revetment any further south. Obviously, as the entire, you're seeing this all across Falmouth shorelines, that the beaches are slowly eroding and we're seeing, more and more storm damage. But at the moment, no, there is no plan.
I would suggest you think about what the west or south end of that abutment, what that turn looks like, so that if it does see waves, it doesn't peel back from that end, if you can do something.
Yes, that's also part of the goal. We obviously the structure, when the water levels and waves get up that high, is obviously going to have an impact. The revetment over a natural beach will have a higher reflection coefficient, which means the waves will
Right.
reflect back. It'll also prevent, natural material from migrating north and south, just the littoral system. But that's the entire point of, bringing nourishment into this. I mean, it's not a mitigation factor, really. It's just to actually, keep the entire beach as a whole and actually start repairing it. The problem is, sea levels rise and things like that, but the beach is just kind of sand-starved. And so what we're trying to do is actually start rehabbing the beach and preventing, erosion really north and south of it. The structure itself will be able to maintain itself, but the sand is really kind of to deal with the littoral system both north and south of there.
And my point of bringing up is if you walk that area maybe 40 feet to the west or south, you get better vegetation than you have right at the end of your project.
You do. It actually.
And if something could tie those in together is what I'm coming back. And otherwise, it's a difficult situation. It looks like you're doing a good job.
No, I hear what you're saying, and we'll take a look at that when we have our time while we're dealing with natural heritage.
Okay.
Russ?
Peter, is that bike path going to be able to withstand the front end loader running back and forth?
Yeah, what we've done with the last 3 repairs, we usually use we've been using the Trunk River lot as a staging area, and then we've had the DPW trucks going back, and they did come up on the bike path, they'd swing on the bike path and back down, and they had an excavator there, or they'd have a front end loader there, and it has in the past withstood it. With the last storm Sandy, we had to rip out portions of the bike path because it was all undermined, and it's a type of material, it's a type of construction where you can't just put material on the sides of it. because you really need to get underneath it and pack it, so they had to remove portions of the bike path. But this area is right now, it's in pretty good shape. Any materials that will be down there won't be a track type. It'll be a rubber tire, excavator, or some, but it won't be like a track type with the shoes on it that'll actually beat up the bike path. And actually, with this type of construction, I think we did the last time, with the type of construction, it's going to be done in, late fall or spring, or sometime when it's not that busy. I mean, we go out there today, it is, you can get 100, 150 people an hour easy on the bike path, and we're doing.
Right through your construction zone, I've seen them do it.
We were doing paving back in 2008, and these people, and folks were coming through the hot asphalt on their bikes, and after it was rolled, so it's steaming, you could see it, so it's dangerous. But, so it'll be done at different times of the year, but it won't be done through, it wouldn't be done between June through like September, this time frame. It will be done before and after the holidays.
Thank you.
Okay, Mary?
I was actually going to ask about the pavement, the bike path per se, and I thought I had seen that it was planned to address that in here, but now I'm not finding it. Are you going to do any patching as part of this project? There is some erosion on the water side that's pretty noticeable.
If there is some touching up on the edges of the asphalt, sometime it ravels off. It wears out, and then the asphalt will just start sloughing off and falling. We will do some of those crack repairs if that happens. If any of the machinery on the edge of the road, we'll button that up and push it up, but if we have to do little sections, we will. But there'll be no major milling or ripping or tearing. It'll just be... What had happened is after the sand, we actually had a contractor in last year. This went through a town meeting article back in 2012. And so what had happened is we had our contractor in last year to restore the area because it was in bad shape. I mean, it was up to a point where bikers we had cones and barrels out there. So, and we were able to get some restoration funds through FEMA. So hopefully we'll get something on this, but it doesn't look that way. But.
Thank you.
Mario?
You mentioned that foot traffic from the bike path down to the beach is contributing to undermining the resource area. Do you see any kind of a need along that stretch where it's most vulnerable to put up a fence or a barricade preventing people from leaving the bike path?
We could look at something like that. We have done that in the past with the soft solutions that we had, but between the wind usually knocks the fence down, or the people push the fence down and they walk over it. It's not a great beach area. I mean, being the Barrier Beach, it's all stones that wash up in the beach, but people do like to go into that section of the beach. And so, if you go out there at this point, you look further west, further to the south of actually where the work is done, it's starting to wear a little bit there where people are starting to walk off.
Okay.
I can attest, Mara, that they've put sand fencing up along that to try to protect the repairs we've done. And people do just push it over.
They just push it. Is that like snow
I mean,
fencing
you might
over, or
consider
something?
like a posted rail, something that can be easily moved. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's something I guess the town can look at doing. I don't know if it would be.
What about plantings? I mean, there's a lot of Rosa Rugosa.
We've tried to put plantings in there a couple of different times. They just don't take. We could try again. The Rosa Rugosa does loves it down there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a pretty effective barrier, too.
Oh, it absolutely is.
I'll say.
Yeah, good. Right, the south end of the southwest, when I met up with Mike today on site, it is eroded and the asphalt is actually peeling. And that's the end where people are walking down. It's right after the Rosa Rugosa, and it's kind of like a little like, hey, look at that, and there we are. And there's at least 150 an hour on that bike path. If you're not watching your back, you're going to get hit by kind people who love our Shining Seas Bikeway. It's a good thing. There is a outhaul that is on the beach.
Okay.
That's got to go. I don't care whose it is, it's got to go. It's a steel pipe. I tried pulling on it. It's either a guideline from an old pole or something.
Yeah.
That's Gotta go.
What it is, it's a guy, it's exactly that. It's a guy wire, the guy anchor to one of the old poles. And actually, when we were down during last year with the Sandy repairs, there's one further on down towards Trunk River. And they had it was a rubber tire machine, but it was a pretty good tire machine, pretty good sized machine on the bike path. And they were reaching over from the bike path, and he had some torque on that, and it wasn't coming out. It's in the ground a good amount, so.
Whether they excavate a little bit, even by hand, and you cut it off or something.
We might have to get down there with a torch and cut it off.
Yeah, because that's waiting for somebody to really get
Yeah.
kiboshed.
Yep.
Overall, I think we've addressed everything that we've come up with this. And I'd like to put kudos out to our newest member on the board that I never ceased to, a very good question, asking about what machinery was going to be used. You know, please go with your gut feeling. And it opened up a good Pandora's box on the methodology and where the staging areas and such. So put that feather in your cap. That was a simple questions and sometimes the best answers. You know, they're just, it's good to have you here, John. Along with all my other board members, but.
Yeah, you guys count too.
Yeah. So I believe we need to have a continuance because of the heritage.
How long is it going to take you to talk to our new friends at Natural Heritage?
I'm guessing it's going to be, besides talking to them, getting an answer that we can proceed with, it'll be at least a month, and I did hear you at an October 1st meeting, so can we,
Okay, on October 1st.
we'll take October
I
1st.
mean, if they don't want to review it, that's fine. I just, since the presence of the birds there this past summer, I'm going on.
I'm guessing even the
Better
non-answer
safe
is
than
going to take a
sorry.
while to get out of them, so
Yeah.
it's more than just a week or 2
Okay,
weeks. So.
October 1st it is.
Could I have a motion from the board?
The request of the applicant, I move we continue this hearing to October 1st.
Second.
We have a motion, and John was the second. Any other discussion from the board? Is there any discussion on this project in the audience? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. We have
Thank you,
continued
gentlemen.
requests for hearing under a notice of intent. All of them have been continued to further dates. So now we get to move directly to voting orders of conditions. First up is 14 Wicker Tree Road.
Form sheets aren't being ordered to you. Mary, Russ, Tom, Mike, John. Actually, Mario, you're not on any of these quorums.
I'm sorry?
You're not on any of the quorums, Mario. Just letting you know, in case you wanted to take off. I'm giving you an out here. I suggest you take it.
Oh, well.
14 Wicker Tree.
Is that a raise and rebuild? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, my notes say with it, we're just looking for a dry well detail and
Barbara was going to get me the CBW data sheets.
and some plantings to be added at the informal path to the wetlands. Probably viburnum I have here.
I think that
Where were the plantings, Mary? They
the
were.
casual path.
There's-
Oh, yeah.
Northwest corner.
Yep. Okay. Viburnum, dentatum, and winthrop, apparently the same species now. I have issues with that.
Outside of the issue with the plantings and the description thereof,
My issues.
is there any other concerns on this project?
No,
Okay.
not from staff, anyway.
If that is so, I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve as discussed.
Second.
It's a
With your
motion from-
normal standard and special conditions.
Correct.
All
That was a
good
motion
words.
from Russell, a second by Mike. Is there any discussion in the audience on this project? Seeing none, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next, we have 78 Bourne Street.
Yeah, tin corn throughout.
Is there a question on mitigation plan for this one on this?
It was in where the
Yeah, we're
corner,
gonna
there was
shift.
a hydrangea or something.
Right.
Yep, we're gonna shift the vegetation not to impact the existing vegetation. That would be the lilac.
That's it,
Lilac.
thank you.
Yeah, which I don't think is going to survive. She's getting old.
Well, I think that was the only trigger that had a response.
Yeah, I think the butters' concerns all had to do with height of the building.
Aesthetics and
things-
such.
Yeah, and things that were outside of our
That's,
purview.
that's it.
Yep. Hopefully they can have a good discussion with the homeowner. If there's no other discussion on this, I'd entertain a motion.
Am I in the quorum here? Can I
No,
can't say
you're
anything.
not on the quorum on any project, Mario. That's why I was giving you the out. Shush.
You can go home early.
I can
Get
call
out
it.
of here.
That's what I was kind of getting at.
Can I just have a little nudge?
Okay, what?
There's a huge black oak right on the limit of work. Are they gonna save that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
That's,
There you go.
Yes.
No, we had that one.
Now go home.
Yep. Thank you for picking that up.
No, wait, I have to have that discussion with you.
So,
I will.
if we have enough information to make, I'll entertain a motion, please.
Move to approve the order as discussed.
Second.
That was Mary, and then Mike. Any discussion on that from the audience on this project? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention?
Aye.
John has abstained. And the motion carries. Next is 189 Sea Pit Road.
That was the proposed pier in Childs River. The special, or the comments that I have were, they were 10-inch piles, not 12, so we needed to submit a revised plan.
Yes.
This also needs to have a mooring moved. I don't know if that's something for our order, or maybe just for the harbor master.
I think it's a harbor master, I think. I think
One of
it's,
the
I want a mooring field on the plan, he doesn't have that, so revised plan, we'll have him add the mooring field there,
okay.
just so everyone's very clear.
This is where we had a brief discussion about bringing it up to the walkway. The
Yep,
walkway
just
up to the-
Extending the
expand the
walkway.
ramp landward to avoid the erosion.
Right.
I think it would be a benefit. And
Now, does he have to replant any of that stuff that he's taking out to put the walkway in there?
If you'd like, absolutely.
I don't know if he's gonna be taking anything out.
I mean,
A
it's
little-
minimal.
A little
Yeah.
something.
It's minimal.
Yeah.
We can say replace vegetation removed to construct dock and.
I would like that.
Yes.
Okay,
I mean,
Yes.
because it's a nice
oh,
area.
absolutely.
And-
Abs-
But I'm interested how we feel about those steps that are there, the steps that are down
I'd
at
rather
the beach.
leave the steps there just so that if they do
Not
use
disturb
that-
it, yeah.
Right, yep.
I thought
Okay.
they wanted to leave this.
They do.
They do.
They want to leave it. The question
They do.
is,
So
is
that
that
if they're going to the boat, they're
reasonable?
going to the boat. If the kids are going down to the beach area, they're going down.
Not really much of a beach there.
Well, to the water, go, go make a
Slamming.
mess, you know?
Isn't that the point of the dock?
Well,
Not to
no,
the kids.
not the kids. Kids have to have options.
Yeah.
So do old men too.
I'm not that much of a curmudgeon yet.
No, but,
I like how you preface it with a yes.
I know
So,
where I'm headed.
we have,
I know what I'm gonna become.
do we have enough information to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve as discussed.
Second.
We have a motion from Russ and a second from John. Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 650 Gifford Street, Town of Falmouth.
Okay, this is the treatment plant. So I think
Yes.
our portion of the treatment plant is kind of limited to, well, no, because it's rare species habitat, but our impacts to resource areas is limited to the pump station and the pipes and all of the dewatering.
Yes.
They're not going to start until Natural Heritage has finalized their construction timeline and plan for the turtles. So that can be a special condition that we would like to see Natural Heritage's approval on their plan. Tom, was it Tom, you wanted to see the additional borings?
That was offered by them
Okay.
at one
Who was
point.
that, Mike?
Mike was the.
Oh, Mike, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I think that was Mike.
Thank you.
Borings. Where they're putting the pipes out into the pond.
We wanted to see the result.
You see the
Right,
See
results?
the results.
Okay.
Wanted me
They-
to get a chance.
For the
Yeah.
dewater, from the dewater.
Right.
No, I thought the borings were out in the pond where they're gonna put the pipe because they're directionally drilling the pipe.
Yeah.
So we wanna know, because they haven't done, because they hadn't done the borings out there
They
yet.
hadn't done the boring
Borings,
yet.
so we
They're
want
going to do
completed
the
them.
boring.
Yep,
They were pretty confident that the soils would be,
They're
As
pretty
expected,
confident, but
but-
more
Yeah.
important than that, I want them to be thinking about what they're doing while they're
Yeah,
out
there
there
is.
and near our resource.
You wanted some kind of
Yes.
meter?
yeah,
So if they're gonna send us the boring logs, they'll be
Yeah.
thinking.
okay, so send us boring logs.
Right,
Boring logs, okay.
we,
Boring logs.
and I,
You also wanted a meter for the dewatering?
yes,
That's what I was thinking.
the flow meter.
So-
That would be over near the vernal pool.
No, okay, that's different. Do you want, we were asking for the monitoring well of the piezometer
Yes.
on the vernal pool.
Pool,
And then
yes.
the flow meter is different, that's on the discharge for the dewatering.
discharge.
Okay.
And while we're asking
Like that
for,
word I sent you last week, the piezometer?
I can't say.
while we're asking a staff gauge in the vernal pool,
Yep,
That was
staff
a-
gauge, or he was saying a piezometer, one of the two.
well, the point is,
I would rather them not drill a well in the vernal pool.
no, I don't want
Yeah.
a well in the
No.
vernal pool, something near there, but a staff gauge
In the pool.
in the pool so
Okay.
that if the pool goes up and down, we want to be able to correlate it to the water table.
Yep,
It's temporary construction. I don't think it's that important, but I don't think we can just let people be dewatering near a vernal pool.
oh, no, because there was that same concern when we did New Silver and the vernal pool right there.
Yeah.
And the fluctuation of the water table there.
Right,
So
I'm-
it absolutely is not a new concern.
Right,
So.
in the terms of,
Yes.
So dewatering in the pond, we wanted to silk curtain the area, and they were putting a flare at the end.
Yes, for the discharge?
Yeah,
Yes, they were. And we discussed screen sizes on site. I think that was accomplished.
Yeah,
I think we-
Yeah, I
they
think-
submitted something.
they submitted and it was fine.
And you were happy with that, right, Mike?
I am.
Yeah.
dewatering diffuser
Yep.
should be laid out onto the plywood.
Yeah, it was having, yes, it was
Yeah.
on a platform.
Okay. Back from vernal pool, that was that. And would you like, I mean, they're gonna be having an environmental monitor of some sort up when the construction of the actual plant takes place for the turtles. Do you want an environmental monitor to give you like a weekly report on the construction of the pump house and the dewatering activities?
That would be good,
Okay.
because he's gonna be there anyways doing
Yeah.
that, and just to keep us in the loop, and also notification if there's an event.
Okay, weekly reports.
Yeah, if there's anything outside of
Erosion
any,
control, then they'll look at everything, erosion control, rare species, watering.
I'm just recalling something years ago, the first time I was on the board, and Jacobs Engineering was had a fracking tank for one of their projects off of Sam Turner, or Turner Road. And they didn't tell us for an extended period of time about an event that they had. And the damn alarm didn't go off because the power went out and the battery was dead in the alarm. So it went, and
Unnoticed.
it was when Doug Carlson was the Air Force liaison, and it was like pulling chicken's teeth to get an answer on how many gallons went untreated over that weekend period from Friday when people left till Monday when they came in.
Oh, jeez.
So that would be my,
Notifying of an event, yeah.
no, that's my little caveat on that.
Nope, we'll have that.
Do we have enough information to
And
issue
then
this?
obviously erosion control measures and everything else discussed in the notice of intent as far as their methodology and things like that. We'll go through that and outline it. Okay.
I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve, as discussed.
Second?
Russell and Mary. I would like to make one comment on the participation of the locals that were there. It was very engaging, and they were very concerned, and even though we couldn't alleviate a lot of their concerns, because our purview was away from what they were asking for, it was still nice to see people come out and participate with the on-site. And so I am grateful for their comments that went into the file, and would always encourage the public, particularly on a project of this size, to put their foot in through the door. That's always a good thing to have that. So, any other comments from the board?
Just following up on yours, the people who did show up were very respectful, very
Absolutely.
cooperative, and very respectful. And that's, friendly dialogue is a nice thing.
Outstanding. Any comment from the audience? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 131 McCoy Highway.
This is the dock at Webner. The seasonal dock that the National Estuary Program would like to put in to facilitate their research efforts and programs, and school programs and educational programs down there. As is stated in your, the hearing, the board, that the dock does trip a few of your performance standards, shellfish density. The dock is in a velocity zone. So the board does need to have a discussion and determine whether or not Webner meets the hardship criteria, or if they provide, or if they provide an overriding public benefit to construct the dock.
I'll kick it off.
Please do.
I was surprised, frankly, at the hearing that the issue of the variance wasn't even addressed by anybody providing testimony. And my own feeling is that they don't qualify in a few ways. I don't think the hardship is demonstrated, and I think, in fact, unfortunately, I think this whole thing is unfortunate, but unfortunately, their testimony tended to inadvertently make the argument that they don't really have a hardship. They're able to do what their mission is without that dock, and do it very well, and it's been going on since 1988. Another factor in the hardship argument has to do with, the conditions have to be through no fault of their own, and I wouldn't say that there is fault here. However, I would point out that part of their problem, aside from the velocity zone, is being in the ACEC. That was designated in 1979. Webner was established in 1988, so they knew about the ACEC conditions, and although they don't have, they're just in there, and they're not the people who established the ACEC, the conditions that are on the book for doing something like building a dock in the ACEC require that there be a management plan on the books. And if you read the Webner annual reports, they've known about that for years and known that it was an obstacle. And I don't know, and as I said, it's not up to them to create a management plan. I don't think they have the authority or jurisdiction for that, but I don't know that they've ever tried to promote the powers that be. I think it's mostly the town who would be authorized to do that. But I just don't think they made a case at all for their variance. And I think I'm not persuaded about the hardship. And I regret saying that. It would be nice if Webner could have the dock they want, but I think really with the velocity zone and these other factors, it's just not justified.
Mike?
First, I believe Mary made convincing arguments. I think, if not all, most docks are a convenience. That's essentially what most of them are. There are a few instances where there are. So that they are not, it is not an individual or private residence asking for a convenience that may interrupt a resource. It's for the benefit of the resource. Their use for this dock is benefits this board, benefits a lot of people because they collect in information which allow us to do our job. It benefits the kids at school who go and learn at the dock, so that it serves a higher service than a residential dock and a velocity zone. Speaking, and the velocity zone does bother me. If there was ever an argument why we shouldn't have docks, it's the velocity zone. It was well pointed out by residents that they have the potential of becoming missiles during docks. So that I don't think you can overlook that. I will say they have staff during that period of time, and we can condition when the dock has to be pulled, and they do have the staff to move it beforehand, and they are clearly good stewards. And because it is to their benefit, they know if it's going to be damaged and removed, they won't have it. It gets higher on their list. So I guess my point is, I don't think their arguments were as convincing as they should be, but I think there are good reasons for us as a commission to approve it.
Well, I'm going to step right in it. I was leaning directly towards you, Mike, but I found Mary's things very compelling. I look at this as all of a sudden the phone rings right now, and we got to go down there and we got to get this dock out. We finally got the forecast that met up with this. This structure is not going to be easy getting off that beach. It's going to take people, and quite a few of them, and to be done safely. There may be an alternate way of doing it. I'm not going to describe it because that isn't how it was described in their presentation. One of the things I got hung up on is the height of the pilings at the end, right? And my recollection was there was a statement about if the floats weren't able to get out in time, that the 100-year elevation That's why those poles are that high, so that the float wouldn't come off. They have their hands full, and I appreciate it. You know, I really had an issue with the electrical in there. Everything my mother told me not to play with, electrical and water, you know? And it just the way it was in here, I'm like, it's just, and it's all, see, everything comes apart, you know, and they kind of made we can put the sleeves down further into the ocean bed, and they won't protrude and stuff. It doesn't take much in a velocity zone, to fetch something up and become a real hazard. And it was difficult. I weighed this back and forth 1,000 times, but then, you know, in springtime, everybody's happy, and they come down, they put this thing together, and everybody's got their first box of equipment, and they're out, and they're doing God's work. It's wonderful. Everybody's happy. But it's that phone call, you gotta coordinate a boat, and they do have boats. But they also have other obligations. This isn't the only facet of that place that has to be addressed in a storm situation. There is benefit to it. And I get a kick out of this, the ADA compliant ramp. You know, really? How the hell are you gonna get them down there? You know, it just, I don't understand it sometimes. I know that that's what they have to do, and that's mandated, that's fine. The tethering system, again, in case there's a storm event, the tethering, it would help stiffen the stiffeners to just keep the floats from going away. These are all contingencies. They wouldn't be on the plan if they didn't have that in the back of their heads. Crap, if we don't get this thing out, what's gonna happen? It wouldn't be on the plan. You know, and I've been tripping over that many other times. And I found Mary's description of the activities, and they are doing them there. It's a convenience, a very much wanted convenience. But I, as one, and it's been very difficult, I would not be in favor of this portion of the project. The other pieces are all pretty much cut and dried. But as far as this one, approving this in a velocity zone as presented with the methodology that was described, I do not have a strong comfort level that this could be addressed in a timely fashion if the gong started to ring.
Chairman, one other point that nobody's mentioned, but it's actually really obvious, is that the town landing is also there and available for the researchers to use, for the staff to use. And as far as the educational activities go, I don't know, they're important activities, but I'm not entirely convinced that the dock is going to serve those activities very much. I think it's mainly the other things and that could be done from town landing when necessary.
Yes.
First, I don't want to criticize the applicant for wearing a belt and suspenders. He provided, if this goes wrong, it's okay. So he put things on plans that he doesn't intend to use, but that's part of why it's there, and it is a belt and suspended kind of application. And this engineer isn't going to criticize another engineer for doing that. That's the end of it. And I can say the same thing about the town dock. It's there, and it's a good thing, and we can be used for them in the event to get boats and other equipment out. So, and the applicant from the town had support from the town, the teachers who use it, saying the dock is important. It gets the kids out, it gets them in. And there's nothing. There are a few human activities better than teaching children. So I'm swayed by those, but at times I think I'm convincing myself and not the commission. So I shall cease.
No, this is the time when we have put these thoughts out and discuss. This is what we have to do, is we have to hammer this out. And
And I think nobody's having a particularly easy time with this one, so.
No,
it's good to-
definitely
it's
Didn't
good to
have an
hear
easy
about it.
time with
Yeah.
it the last time either. This has always been a difficult project for the commission. This isn't the first time the commission as a board has grappled with this request.
Yes, this is not the
Can we
first.
split it in, can we make a motion that we split this into at least 2 pieces?
Oh, I was
So
going to
we
get
get
to
that-
that
we
afterwards,
get the-
after you were done with your doc discussion, because I
Okay,
don't think there's
that's fine.
anything wrong, just to throw it out there, so you guys can
Right.
discuss it with the rebuilding of the steps, the proposed wood steps of the existing, like, really steep existing concrete steps there, or the only comment I have on their proposed mitigation for the increased platform was the planting spec. You know, technically, you usually see double what was proposed because your spacing's a bit smaller, but I could go with the 6-foot spacing since, well, following your comments on the dog. But I think there is a way, Mike, to split that.
We asked and they were amenable.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing anything, we're not doing anything that we hadn't discussed.
No.
Correct.
Yep.
I would entertain a motion on that.
So should we put a motion for the whole thing first, or should we put a motion to split it?
I think to describe
Do we
them,
deny it?
no,
You know what I'm saying?
we're doing a positive motion on the upland activities. Not-
Okay, I would
not
do
the-
that.
I'd like to hear a motion on upland activities, not, everything outside of the dock.
Okay, I'll make a motion, a motion to approve upland activities, not including the dock.
Second.
We have Russ and then John for a second. Any further discussion from the board? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Now, we need to have a positive motion on the portion of the dock.
I will make that motion. I want to make a motion to accept the dock with the provision there is no power supplied to the dock.
Okay, do we have a second? Even if
Second
we-
it, just to get it on the table, guys.
Second.
Second it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Russell is going to take a second. Okay, before I call for the vote, is there any further discussion about what we're going to be voting on with this positive determination? If we vote a yay, the dock will be gone, will be
Permitted.
as discussed without the electrical. A nay, it will not be approved. Is there any final discussion necessary?
One of the things that just kind of came up for me was that actually having this dock seems to lessen the impacts on the beach. We're recognizing that in addition to this being in the velocity zone and the concerns that come with the storm coming through and knocking the dock out of the way, there's also this concern about shellfish in the area, and I did see that as a benefit to having the dock there, that with all of this high traffic that seems to be coming through there with the many projects, that if they're actually coming and using the dock instead of landing on the beach, or people walking up and down the beach, getting in and out of boats, kicking up the sediment, that seemed to benefit. And I didn't really get a sense that the intent of using the town landing was to avoid using the beach. I mean, it sounds like the beach is still going to be used regardless. And I did see that as a benefit to having the dock there. I thought that they really went a long way to mitigating any of the problems. And I understand that this is a hard call and that it's still a concern. I mean, when they talked about the boats, the possibility of a boat coming across and hitting those pilings. I mean, whether or not that would actually happen.
That's a good point, because in a storm event, those pilings are going to still be there.
Right.
So
and
say everything is removed,
So,
you know, you still have, in a velocity zone, new structures that would not be permitted in other places as well, and have not been permitted in other places.
I think those are the only two things that I wanted to add, just that were in my mind.
I would agree, those are pretty substantial advantages of the project. It wasn't focused on that tonight, but it had occurred to me during the hearing previously. And again, I'll just say, I'm unhappy with this situation. I just don't think that there's, it's not the kind of advantage that outweighs what I consider to be a major hazard, or potentially major hazard.
Yeah.
Are we done? Okay. Call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
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 The motion does not carry. Thank you. Next is 145 Old Dock Road. That was
Oh,
without
yes.
prejudice, so that, I want that vote to be known as without prejudice.
Yes.
Okay.
It's always been a difficult vote for you guys. It was the last time. It's not easy.
No, it's not.
It's been easy for you as a board. Old Dock Road was the
All I have to do-
driveway.
All I had to do was listen to Mary, and I was convinced I was wrong.
You guys were avoiding taking that vote too. This is the driveway.
Yep.
Okay, we're in West Falmouth now, guys.
Yep.
Driveway, I did talk to Scott. Remember I said I would get the opinion of the town engineering department about the irrigation?
Right.
The response was, they're not gonna have them remove it, because it's there, but the applicant does need to be aware that if the town were to work on the road or require its removal, they need to comply with that, and also that if it breaks, it's their responsibility. So the town's not gonna go in and say, remove it, but they have to be put on notice that the town could require its removal at any point in the future. And they would need to comply with that.
Is that going to be in the area where the plantings are near the road?
It's already in there.
I realize that, so
Yeah.
they're going to be replanting this up in here. Okay, yeah, all right, yep.
And they do need to stop pruning the vegetation along the side of the driveway.
The north side.
Yeah.
And also doesn't look like a Falmouth-friendly lawn. I
Yeah,
don't think they're
that's-
following that protocol.
I
I
mean,
think
we
that-
did receive a letter from the applicant that says they aren't pruning their bushes, that the landscaper does it on their own, and that they are following the farm-friendly lawn protocol, but evidence, we're seeing the bushes pruned to a height of like 2 feet, and we are seeing, indications that chemicals have been applied to the lawn, so I do need to question that.
Oh, and if I see,
The town did sign off on the driveway portion of it, so they did need to go back and get that, and the town did want them to plant lower vegetation along the road instead of what they had proposed, so. Right.
Well, now it will
And
be
more of it.
Native.
Yeah,
yes, that was
lower
correct. Yep.
native. So, other than that,
Make a motion to accept, approve the project as discussed.
Second?
and they're replacing that dead pine.
Yes.
Yes.
The, any further discussion on the board? Any discussion on this project from the audience? Seeing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, so moved. So when I see the guy over there with the landscape truck, I can absolutely, positively. Stop my feet.
I've stopped them before.
Next is 49 Sharon Ann Lane.
49 Sharon Ames
This was
Lane.
for EP number? Did we go through this one?
This
No,
was
we
a
got new
mitigation.
This was the pool.
Mitigation.
Okay, yep.
This is the pool.
Yep.
The pool, which we largely, as a board and the staff, didn't have too many concerns with the pool, although, who was it, Mike and I had trouble envisioning how it was gonna look.
Oh, yeah, this is.
Yeah, with the
okay, I know, all right,
waterfall
I know, all right,
coming
there's
off
the water
and
on
the
the
spa
yeah,
on the top.
top
and-
and the
Quite a substantial structure. The staff's major concern was the old order of conditions.
Condition.
Stated that the property be left in its natural vegetated state up to contour 14, go out to the site and down to contour, 4. It had all been, the understory had been completely removed. The board did agree on a compromise to that to allow the applicant to have a little bit more backyard space. They have young children. So they did give us a planting plan, planting that up to the 7-foot contour line, like the staff suggested, so.
And they've
I've reviewed the planting plan, which was my major concern. I'm fine with it. They're removing that old Tyrell retaining wall.
Yep.
And they're constructing the pool, which I had no issues with.
Would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve as discussed.
Second.
You got that, Susan?
I will have them plant prior to constructing the pool. That's the only thing I ask.
Yes,
The fall is a perfect time of year to plant.
yes. Any further discussion on the board? Any discussion on this project from the audience? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Next is 146 Saconaset Road.
I hate being puzzled like this.
What did he say?
He hates being muzzled like this.
See, you should have gotten home.
This is the,
I should have gone home.
I gave you the option.
You sure did.
I handed it to you on a silver platter.
this is the invasive species management plan from Blue Flags.
Yes.
The vines were growing around the stakes. And a cool pickup truck.
And the
We're
leaky
just waiting
faucet.
for a DEP number, is that?
Yep.
Yeah, we got all that. That was closed. They won't extend the bluestone patio, and she's just doing the invasive species removal. It's all hand removed
And then
and
big segue.
spot treated. It's not mechanically removed, so it's hand removed and spot treated.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve as discussed.
Second.
We've already sent a letter upstairs to the Board of Selectmen, letting them know that you've approved the removal of the cutting and the treating of the vines
On the,
on the
On the
town
Town
property.
property. That was motion second. Okay. All right, any discussion from the board or the audience? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Our last one for this evening is 47 Bryant Point Road.
That's the one where Barbara brought in the plans that day showing the grading.
Yeah, that was the CMI.
Well, that's the redo, that's the amendment.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
the amendment up on the end of the street. It's a cul-de-sac. Okay. I'm ready.
And they're just making that whole front area, it's kind of like lawn. They're just filling it in, evening it off, making it lawn, parking space, adding mitigation plantings to the existing mitigation because they're extending that wall on the east side of the property. And making that little curly retaining wall on the
Sure.
other side.
Given the depression that's there, it does no harm to the resources, and I can see the benefits to the applicant. I have no objection.
We have a motion then.
Move to approve the order as discussed.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion from the board or the audience? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Can I have another motion, please?
Can
Make
I
a
make a
motion to
motion,
adjourn.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh,
May I make a motion?
please.
Just got to get it out of me.
There you go.
I'd like to move that we adjourn.
All right, that's Mario's motion.
Second.
And Mary's second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you.
Mark,